On behalf of the survivors from Kovnisim, on behalf of everybody else who's here, I am extremely pleased to introduce to you a woman who is after my own heart. You are the first female governor of the state of New York. I am the first female director of the Borough Park Y. Women can accomplish greater things, particularly when they work together, and I thank you very much. And I thank you for being here, and I give you the floor. Okay? And I thank everybody else who's here, all the partner agencies and our survivors who are here. And thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just had one of the most extraordinary experiences in my life. I had a chance to sit in a room and have a meaningful conversation with the most resilient, strongest, but compassionate women I've ever had a chance to encounter. And those are our Holocaust survivors sitting right here. You'll be hearing from Eva shortly, but it's what they went through was not just life-changing for them. And for many, they carried these memories and scars with them through life, but it also was always that touchstone that when they had the challenges that came later as residents in a foreign land, United States of America, and settling in New York, no matter how complicated life got or challenges, they always could touch back and say, but look what I overcame. Look what I survived. Look what I endured. And because of those experiences, I will say there's no one with as much heart but as much strength as these incredible women. So please stand up, our Holocaust survivors. Let's give you a round of applause for the lessons you are teaching all of us, the lessons you teach us. Thank you. And Ellie, I love your enthusiasm, your passion for your work, and it's all right to be the first woman as long as we do such a good job that there's always women after us too, right? Yes. That's the responsibility we have to create those opportunities. Avi Greenstein, I want to thank you for your leadership here as well at the Borough Park Jewish Council, and a friend I've had for many, many years, and that is David Greenfield, who now is the CEO of the Met Council. We knew when he was a council member. Always was so welcoming and kind to me, and I never forget way back 8 years ago when I was running for lieutenant governor, and people were like, Kathy who? How do you say that last name? You introduced me to this warm and welcoming community, and I've always felt that this is family to me as well, so thank you. And I know Eric Goldstein will be joining us as well. Great to be back in Borough Park. As I said to David, I'm here a lot. And to come this particular week, Holocaust Remembrance, President Biden acknowledged that we should honor this the entire week. I say we honor it 365 days a year. This is not a one-day, one-week phenomenon, but we'll take this week to pause and reflect on what that means. And, I actually went to a number of the camps. I was in Austria, Germany. It was part of a family outing to make sure that my children had a chance to be aware, be cognizant that in their own grandparents' lifetime, the most horrific atrocities were committed against fellow human beings. And I wanted them to know that this was not historical stories from 150 years, 200 years ago, Middle Ages. It happened, and there's people still alive who survived this. And that was important for me as a parent to teach my own children about what man is capable of doing to other men and women. And I'm fearful of what we see occurring not far from there in Ukraine. I've been reaching out to a lot of the communities to support the Ukrainian Jews who are feeling under siege right now, and they need a place to go. They need a place to heal and recover, and I cannot think of a better place than the great state of New York, which has the largest Ukrainian population. We're proud of that. But the Jewish community often feels under siege, and they need the special warmth and love that we believe only New York can offer. So I've extended the welcome, the resources, the conversations with the State Department saying, let us be first. And so that'll continue the tradition of taking people away from the horrors of life and letting them come to New York and heal. And you are examples of what that healing looks like, to be able to come here to this Borough Park Y and to rekindle and friendships, start new friendships, have activities that are stimulating, to share your stories, to talk about grandkids. Somebody might even have 100 grandkids and great-grands, I heard from somebody. I'm on the verge of having my first grandchild any day now, so I got a little catching up to do here, but 100 grandchildren sounds magnificent. And as one of you said, that is your revenge on Hitler, because you just grew families and said, we still not just survive, we thrive. And so we are here to recommit ourselves to supporting the survivors. And it is our duty, not just as New Yorkers, but as citizens of the world. And it's something I take very seriously. But while I'm governor, and I hope to be governor a long time, God willing, I want to make sure we have the resources to take care of you. So I can say we should take care of people and help them thrive and do well, but we need to put money behind it. And I'm here today to announce $2.6 million in funding for the Holocaust Survivors Initiative. This is for 29 organizations that provide critical social services to our survivors. So you don't have to go wanting, and the organizations of people that are so compassionate and dedicated to doing what we do right here will have the resource to make your lives even more enriched and to give you whatever service you need, but just to have opportunities in a safe, loving environment, something you were denied, many of you as children. I spoke to one of you and you felt like you had been robbed of your childhood. Well, we can be kids again. We can be in a place like this, a safe space, where people, again, as I mentioned, shared experiences, know what you've been through, but also are part of the healing process. That's why I wanted to make sure that we have the money allocated for these purposes. And we know that New York is home to nearly 40,000 survivors. But how is it possible that 40% of them live in poverty? They live in poverty. They had the most challenging, horrific start in life as children, but as they grow older, don't they deserve more than to live in poverty? So we're here to help them as well and support the programs that are lifting them out of poverty. So that's what we're going to continue to do. Another area where I am deeply concerned, some of you spoke to me about this, what is going on in society today? Why has there been a dramatic increase in hate crimes, particularly anti-Semitism? What is going on? Do people not know the stories of what unchecked evil can result in? That's why here, as governor of New York, I will continue not just to call out these acts, but to protect people as well, to make sure they have the resource to have security lighting and facilities and all the technology they need to make sure that they are protected, where they worship, where they live, where they shop. We owe that to people. No one should have to live in fear. Fear can be debilitating. I don't want people to be fearful in communities like Borough Park or Crown Heights or someone taking the subway. This is New York. This is New York. People deserve the freedom from fear. We have the Statue of Liberty standing in our harbor. Not New Jersey's, that's ours. We'll have that fight anytime. That's a symbol of freedom from want and fear. We welcome people. We still welcome them today. But while they're here, we have to take care of them and make them not just feel safe, but be safe. And that is what I'm committed to doing, to fight this battle. I grew up in a little bit of a tough place in the state of New York. My grandparents were very poor immigrants, fled great poverty in Ireland, came here with nothing. And they built a life. Grandpa working at a steel plant. My dad worked at a steel plant. They lived in a trailer park. But life was good because they were free. They didn't have oppression. They knew they had something good. And I'm committed to making sure that we'll have additional funding for security, $25 million in our budget for security. So if you make sure that we'll protect the communities that are at most risk of hate crimes and attacks with the $25 million. So I want you to know we will not only never forget and continue teaching the stories of the Holocaust in schools. I believe that needs to happen. That has to be part of children's understanding of what can happen when people don't rise up early enough to stop hatred and evil. That lesson needs to be taught because, as I said, we're seeing it elsewhere in this world, and make sure that happens, but also to lift up the survivors, tell their stories of resiliency and strength, the strength that exists right here in these 2 rows. And I thank you for sharing with me a little bit of your life, because that inspires me to be there for you. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Please welcome to the podium Eva Gans.
Not all of us are used to public speaking. Eva, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you for honoring us with your presence and your warmth and understanding and feeling our pain and giving us a chance to have these programs, and which is really fulfilling our lives at this point. We need this. We also are getting older, and we don't have much time left. So therefore, it's become even more urgent to spread the truth and also to give us all the help that we need, because we are going to need more and more as time goes by. So I really appreciate all your help, and we hope that you will continue to support us. As you have said, we are very proud that you have taken this time to tell us about what programs and how much money was allocated. Now, okay, you already mentioned the recent rise in anti-Semitism. We are especially concerned, being from where we come from, when we see even the slightest indication of anti-Semitism, our antennas go up, because we have been there, we have seen it, and we have seen the horrors that it could bring. So we cannot let it just slide by. It's very important for us, not only anti-Semitism, but any kind of hate act. This is America. This is a free country, and we have to protect that freedom. When freedom is denied, then chaos comes in. And it's much harder to stop after it has taken its directive. I lived through fascism, Nazism, socialism, and communism. So I know all about those things, okay? We have to look and understand that there is a source of where this comes from, and we have to stop that source. Okay, I feel that it's not enough to say it's unacceptable and we won't tolerate it. We have to do something actively. The people have to understand that we have to protect our freedom, and freedom is that we stop whatever is harmful to the general public. Now, you know the saying that those who fail to learn from history are destined to repeat it. So I feel that the way to learn from history is to teach the future generation, the young people. And I feel that it has to be from the very bottom up. by the time they have their own minds and they go to college and are told all kind of things, it's too late. We have to teach respect, loyalty, and honesty to the very young children. From the little age on, respect will stop many of the hate, because if you respect people and property, you will behave properly. So that, I feel, is very important.
Tell them a little bit about your life story, about where you were during the war, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So it is, I feel, our duty to return to our core values and better future, starting at the bottom, like I said, with the children, and educate them to morality and ethics. Now, my story is that I was born just before the war, and I was 3 years old when my father was taken away to a labor camp. After that, I've never seen my father. My mother and I stayed in Budapest until the Germans came in, and then we were taken to ghetto. And when things became very bad and my mother saw that this is very, very serious, my grandmother arranged with a Gentile lady to take me in, and I was there till the end of war. January 18, the Russians came in, and they liberated the city, and my mother came to pick me up. She survived, but she was the only one who survived. If she wouldn't have survived, I wouldn't be here. So, you know, we all have different kind of histories and different kind of pains. I personally always felt that I was robbed of my childhood. I never really had a happy childhood of any sort. And after the war, we also had the communist dictatorship, and they made life very difficult. So anybody who is talking about things, you know, that socialism and communism, they have to try it before they say anything. So we left, we escaped. We were 2 years in a DP camp, and Canada gave us permission to emigrate there, and that's where I ended up. When I was 18, I came over here, I got married, I helped my husband, and then I became a designer, and I contributed in that manner. So I'm eternally grateful for having had the opportunity to live in this free country, and it pains me greatly to see what's happening. I think we really need to change the direction we're heading in. We have to stress loyalty to the country and to the United States, and for all the wonderful things that it has provided us, and to protect it. I thank you so much for listening to me, and hopefully we'll get to a better place. Thank you.
Please welcome to the podium, Avi Greenstein.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Governor, for being here. It cannot be overstated what type of a encouragement this is for our precious survivors and for the organizations who dedicate so much, everything to help them out. So I want to begin by saying thank you. And I want to share, especially as we come off the heels of COVID and we're back to normal life, and we've come to realize what we've all gone through. And it's just incredible to have this new infusion of support. The allocations, the money is definitely help us out, but also being here and showing that you care. And so I want to say on that, thank you. And one of the incredible partnerships that we have with the state is that organizations, community-based organizations, have this distinct advantage. We work together. And so that's so incredible that we can partner together, pool our resources, our strength, power by numbers. So all of this is a collective effort to make a difference. And I want to just conclude by sharing on Hanukkah, the fourth day of Hanukkah, Greg Schneider, the executive vice president of Claims Conference, and I visited a survivor, Saul Goldberg, 97 years old, turning now 97 years old. And Saul had an incredible story about a miraculous menorah that he had survived the war. It's the only thing that made it from his childhood through the war, through a miraculous way. And he shared the story. It was a fascinating story. And we spent a few hours with Saul. And he relived the horrors of the Holocaust, and it was just unreal. But we spent a considerable amount of time hearing from Saul the struggles, the challenges that he is experiencing these days, being alone, and just having to deal with all the emotional, challenges and difficulties, and the food insecurities, and the need for home health aides. He didn't want to be alone, and what that did to him, those feelings of being alone, and we walked out. I remember just more resolved than ever that we will do what we can to help survivors like Saul. And it was shortly after that I got that I was notified by that you have allocated this new infusion of funding, this additional funding that will help us develop the programs, grow the programs. We have a lot of work ahead of us. We'll do the best we can, but this type of support is just incredible. So thank you so much for being here, for coming here, and for this tremendous support. We're so grateful. Thanks.
Please welcome to the podium David Greenfield.
Good afternoon. It's great to be back in the Borough Park Y. And it's a funny story. When I first met Ellie in her official capacity, she said, David, I like you. I said, why do you like me? She said, I like you because you're the first person in public office who knew that I was a woman and not a man, because the name Ellie is usually a man's name. And so Ellie and I hit it off, and I was proud to be a big supporter of the Borough Park Y, and the reason is not just because of her outstanding leadership, and she really is a tremendous leader. It's really because of the work that is done, and many of the survivors we've seen over the years. And the amazing thing about the survivors, I promise you this is true, they get younger every time I see them. They look great, so it must be something in the food here at the Borough Park Y, so thank you for that, Ellie, very much, very appreciative. As a former government employee, I always have to recognize my fellow employees. I want to thank Jake Adler, who's a tremendous liaison to the community. We love Jake. Everything great he learned from me. Whatever he's not good at, blame Senator Felder. That was before my time. Just want to go on the record about that as well. And we have some of the top city employees. It's so refreshing, by the way, to have a situation where, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the governor and the mayor actually work together now, which is like such an amazing thing, right? For years, the governor and the mayor, they would barely talk, much less work together. And today we have some of the senior leadership of New York City. We have one of the senior advisors to the mayor, Joel Eisdorfer, is here. I want to thank Joel. He's been a longtime community leader, a great friend, and want to thank him for his leadership. And, it takes a lot to get someone in the private sector to leave and to come back into government. One of the best employees that we had in the Bloomberg days was Fred Kreisman, and he's back now as Commissioner Fred Kreisman. I want to thank Fred for his leadership. And, we say all politics is local. We have a chairman here of our Community Board 12, Chair Yudel Pearlstein, and District Manager Barry Spitzer, and I want to thank them for doing great work as well. I will just say there's a tale about a Hasidic Rebbe in Europe where his disciples used to come to him for advice and guidance. And when they would come to him for advice and guidance, before they left his study, he would give them all a small stone, a very small stone. And after years and years of doing this, people started saying, wow, these must be some holy stones, right? He blessed the stones. The stones must come from a certain quarry in Europe, where Moses once upon a time walked, perhaps. Everyone was trying to say, what is about this stone? So on his deathbed, his disciples and his students said, Rabbi, we need to understand. Can you explain to us, please, what is the value of these stones? You've given out thousands of these small little pebbles over the years. Did you bless them? Did they come from a quarry? Did they come from where Moses walked in the Middle East? He said, no, it's very simple. He said, here's what I've learned over the years. He said, people come to you with their problems, and you solve their problems, and then they leave, and it doesn't always work out exactly the way they want, and they always have complaints. He said, they used to stone me with big stones, so now I give them small stones. So that way, when they're throwing stones at me, I don't get that injured. And I was reminded of this because we have a prayer that we say every single week, and all Orthodox Jews across the world actually say this prayer, and the prayer is that all those people who work in public service, God should reward them. And that's an actual prayer that we say every Shabbat, and it's a very unusual prayer. It talks about people who work for the government, and it's a prayer that we've said for thousands of years. And so the rabbis debate this and say, this is so bizarre. God, you work for the public. Why should God need to reward you? And the rabbis have said over the years, it's very simple, because if you work for the public, the people will never appreciate what you do, and they're always going to be frustrated and upset, and they're going to complain. So you say, you know what, in the end of the day, God knows what I did. And I think that's really what Governor Kathy Hochul is really all about. We have a situation right now, is somewhat amused yesterday, because yesterday you had some folks in the legislature who were complaining, and they were publicly saying, oh, we're upset, the budget, the governor, they got everything they wanted, but they still weren't happy, and so they're throwing the small stones. And then a poll comes out today that says that if there was a primary today, Governor Kathy Hochul would win by 50 points. So the question is, who are these folks representing, right? Who do they in fact represent? And the answer is that there's always people who are going to complain. Leadership is not about following the minority of the people who complain, but it's about standing up for the majority. And the governor did something this year that was very difficult, and I think that was very telling, and it's why I raised this story, which is part of the reason why the legislature was angry, is because they wanted an on-time budget. The reason they wanted an on-time budget, because the budget's supposed to pass by April 1, is because they had holiday plans. They wanted to go away. They wanted to get paid. They wanted to go on vacation. And the governor said, look, I'm not passing a budget this year unless you make specific changes. And one of the most critical changes to the governor was, she said, we have to strengthen the hate crimes laws in New York. And if it doesn't happen, the budget will not pass. And that's why those legislators are upset, because the governor stuck to her principles and her ideologies and her beliefs, which you've seen. She personally took her family to visit the concentration camp so that her kids could see what that's about. That's an exceptional thing. This is not in her official capacity. She did that on her own, right? It's not like, we have amazing groups. Eric will tell you, JCRC. She did that on her own. What's incredible is that's what her belief is, and that's what she did. And that's why I want to tell you congratulations, and we appreciate you. And when you say you're home in Borough Park, it's because we genuinely respect you, we love you, and we admire you for having the principles to stand up for the silent majority, which is where we're all at today. So thank you for that. We're incredibly grateful. And I will just say that we thank you for this funding, and it's more than the funding. It's about your principles, and you're consistently outspoken about anti-Semitism and about being supportive of the community and about people having the right to live in peace and prosperity. And that's why when you come here, your family, we say your mishpacha, you are part of that family, and that's why we're so grateful to have you here. In the pecking order and the ranking of the philanthropic worlds, I'm preceded. I always tell people that Eric Goldstein is like my father in the philanthropic worlds. We don't always agree, but I love and admire him. And so when I see Eric, it's time for me to wrap up. And super grateful once again, Governor, for your leadership. And you should know that throughout these communities, you have our support. And I want your staff to know, especially your advanced security staff, that we support the police, we support the state police, the NYPD. We appreciate you, we love you, we respect you and admire you, and you should know you're always welcome to come here as well. You're our people, and we appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the podium Eric Goldstein.
Good afternoon, everyone. Really wonderful to be here. First, David thanked many, many people. Let me thank David. David is certainly part of our mishpacha, but also brings so many talents to the table and has been an incredible advocate for our community. So thank you, David. Ellie Castell, grateful to be here at your home, the Borough Park Y. And Governor, we're here for you, to thank you for your extraordinary support of the Holocaust survivor community. This is a significant increase, this $2.6 million additional dollars to support critical services for the Holocaust survivor community. We at UJA have been providing millions of dollars annually to our partners, many of whom here I see Stuart Kaplan from Self-Help, Ellie Borough Park Y, Avi Greenstein, the Borough Park JCC, Met Council, to supply critical need, emergency cash assistance, food, services. We were all negatively impacted by COVID, all of us, but the survivor community particularly so. Resurfaced many of the traumas of their childhood. They lost years of their childhood because of the Holocaust, and now once again. And, you know, we speak about the critical obligation never to forget. This is about to be Yom HaShoah, the importance of never forgetting Holocaust Memorial Day, what happened. But there's an equal, maybe even greater obligation today, which is to never abandon. We cannot abandon our current survivor community to provide them with what they need to live their remaining years in dignity. And the heartbreaking challenge is that 40% of the nearly 35,000 survivors in the New York community live at or near poverty. That's a heartbreaking statistic. Philanthropy tries to do its part, but philanthropy alone cannot do this, which is why we are so grateful to you, to the state legislature, and it's great to see in New York City representatives here too who do so much. So grateful to all of you, and thank you so much.